In this Learn Electrics video, we will show you the important differences between ring and radial circuits when calculating or measuring R1 plus R2, why voltage drop is different in the two types of circuit, and explain why little r1 and little r2 are different to big R1 and big R2, and why we should pay attention to these distinctions. All references to page numbers will be relevant to the current 18th edition of the IET Wiring Regulations Amendment for 2026. To begin, why does R1 plus R2 matter? The simple answer is that, when testing, we want to know that the circuit breaker or fuse will actually trip. We also need to know a couple of other things, but for now, let's say that it all starts in Appendix 3 of the Wiring Regulations book, the Big Orange book. Here we find the time and current tables on page 437. They tell us the minimum fault current that must flow in order for the protected device to operate within a certain approved time for safety. This figure can be converted to a resistance or impedance and then multiplied by 0.95 to arrive at a reduced ZS value that allows for voltage fluctuations in the supply. These reduced ZS figures are shown in the tables on page 74 onwards, and these are called the tabulated ZS values, and these are the ones to use in 18th edition exams. The ZS values are also shown in the on-site guide, but now they undergo another reduction. This time, the tabulated ZS from the Wiring Regulations book is multiplied by 0.8 to give us a ZSM or ZS measured figure, and this makes adjustments for the conductors increasing in resistance as the temperature of the copper increases when current flows through it. This is often called the 80% rule, and ZS measured is what you should be comparing your on-site tests to. Starting with the time and current tables shown at example number 1 on this slide, we move on to number 2, where we have the tabulated ZS tables in the Wiring Regulations book, and these are the ones to use in your 18th edition exam. Number 3 then shows part of table B6 in the on-site guide, the measured ZS values that you compare your test meter results to. It's important to understand the terminology that is used in relation to single-phase circuits. Little r1 is the actual resistance of the line conductor from end to end. Little r2 is the actual resistance of the CPC or earth conductor, and little rn is the actual resistance of the neutral conductor. Now compare that to big R1 plus big R2, which is not the same as the little r's. Big R1 plus big R2 can be either the effective line and CPC resistance in a ring circuit from the consumer unit to the points of use, or it can be the effective line and CPC resistance in a radial circuit from the consumer unit to the point of use. And take note, they are all different. Is it an actual resistance or an effective resistance? Is it a radial circuit or a ring circuit? Then we have ZE, which is the external impedance or resistance of the electrical installation measured at the entry point to the building. In other words, the outside world to the supply transformer and back. And ZS is the whole impedance or resistance of the circuit under test, the inside circuit and the outside world, made up of ZE added to R1 plus R2. And here we have the 3 transpositions of the ZS formula shown in the orange box. If you know any 2 values, one of the formula arrangements will show you what the third value is. R1 plus R2 then is the effective resistance seen by the electrical circuit, which can be different from the individual resistances in ring and radial circuits. Little r1 plus little r2 is not always the same as big R1 plus big R2. Sometimes we must take parallel resistances into account. We can have little r1 on its own, and we can have little r2 on its own, but we cannot have big R1 or big R2 on their own. They don't exist separately. Big R1 plus R2 is a symbol on its own and should not be separated, sometimes written R1 plus R2 in brackets to show that they come together. Think of it as a word. You wouldn't separate the letters of word, would you? When calculating R1 plus R2, we use almost the same formula for ring or radial values. In a radial circuit, simply add the end-to-end resistances of the line conductor, little r1, to the end-to-end resistance of the CPC conductor, little r2, and the example here shows this. 6 ohms plus 10 ohms is 16 ohms. For a ring circuit, one small change to account for the conductors being in parallel. In a ring circuit, add the resistance of the line conductor, little r1, to the resistance of the CPC conductor, little r2, and then divide by 4. So this time we have an effective resistance, R1 plus R2, of 6 ohms plus 10 ohms added together and divided by 4 to give us 4 ohms. OK, the big question. What if we know the effective resistance because we can measure it? How do we find the individual resistances in a radial circuit? In other words, if we know a big R1 plus R2, how can we find the little r1 and the little r2? Can we find little r1 and r2? Look at this basic drawing of a radial circuit. I've shown a socket here as a single point of use, but it could easily be a cooker, a water heater, or any other accessory. This is a dead test, so with line, neutral and CPC all disconnected at the consumer unit, we can link line and CPC together and test at the furthest point of use. Here we have a 2.5mm line with a 1.5 CPC, and we know that together, in series, they measure 1.6 ohms. How do we separate them? When we know R1 plus R2 and the line and CPC cross-sectional areas, the CSA, we can calculate the multiplier ratio, or M, the ratio of the line CSA divided by the CPC CSA. The formula for little r1, the line, is shown in the lavender box. This is R1 plus R2 divided by 1 plus M. And little r2 can be found by a slightly different method now that we know little r1. It can be R1 multiplied by just M on its own, or we can use big R1 plus R2 minus little r1. This table is very useful. It will serve to remind you of how to manipulate the values needed to find the resistance of individual conductors for the different size twin and earth cables that we use most often. Pause the video and take a few moments to understand it. We have an example in use on the next slide. Starting with the blue box, find the CSA ratio for 2.5 by 1.5 twin and earth, which gives us M as 1.67. Divide the effective resistance, R1 plus R2, by 1 added to the M number, and this will give little r1. Then multiply little r1 by the multiplier on its own. So, to the yellow box now. If R1 plus R2 is 1.6 ohms and the multiplier is 1.67, then little r1 is 1.6 ohms divided by 2.67, giving us a result of 0.6 ohms. And little r2 is 0.6 ohms multiplied by 1.67 ohms, with 1.0 ohms as a result. We can double check this. Does 0.6 plus 1.0 equal 1.6 ohms? Yes, it does. Job done. All correct. How do we approach ring circuits then? Almost the same. Almost. Let's look. Dead test again. So disconnect both line conductors from the breaker and the neutral and the CPC from their respective bars, and then cross-connect the line in twin and earth cable A to the CPC in twin and earth cable B. Then cross-connect the CPC in cable A to the line in cable B. This is sometimes called the figure of 8 test because the cables joined like this make a continuous figure of 8 around the circuit. If we start out with a measured value of 0.4 ohms, can we get back to 0.6 ohms and 1 ohm. Almost the same table as before, but this time for a ring circuit. The significant change is in the calculation for little r1. This time we must multiply big R1 plus R2 by 4 before dividing by 1 plus the multiplier, as we need to account for the parallel resistances. Again, pause the video and check out the differences between ring and radial calculations. And now follow the ring circuit calculation. We started with parallel resistances for R1 plus R2 of 0.4 ohms and ended up with the individual actual resistances of 0.6 ohms and 1 ohm. All good? Easy if we follow the method. And something that is often asked, what about voltage drop in radial and ring circuits? Yes, you're right, they are indeed different too. To calculate the actual voltage drop, the expected value, we use two very similar formulas again, almost the same with just a tweak to account for parallel resistances in the ring circuit. In both cases, VD is the calculated voltage drop, what we calculate the voltage drop to be between the consumer unit and the point of use. MVAM, or millivolts per amp per meter, is the cable voltage drop for a particular cross-sectional area of copper conductor, and we can find the per meter value for different cables in table F4.2 in the on-site guide. We are looking at line and neutral conductors, normally both the same size, because this is voltage drop during normal fault-free service, not during a fault. No mention of the CPC. IB is the design current, and there is another difference here. For a radial, single point of use for an attached appliance, the maximum current should be used for IB. But for a ring final circuit, the protective device rating is used because we have no control over what individual appliances will be plugged in or what their maximum currents will be. We assume the worst case scenario and use the circuit breaker or fuse rating for ring calculations. And L is the length one way from the consumer unit to the furthest point of use, because the tables take account of the line and neutral conductors going there and back. For both types of circuit, we multiply MVAM by IB and then by L. Then for a radial circuit, we divide by 1000, but for ring circuits, we divide by 4 multiplied by 1000, or 4000, for the same reason that we divided little r1 added to little r2 by 4 earlier. The maximum permitted voltage drop for a 230 volt AC circuit for lighting only is 6.9 volts and non-lighting is 11.5 volts. A good circuit would show a voltage drop below these numbers. This is part of table F4.2 on page 189 of the on-site guide, showing the tabulated MVAM values for some common cables. The red boxes highlight 2.5mm and 4mm cables that we will use in the next examples. We start with the voltage drop for a radial circuit with a single point of use. The question tells us that a 230 volt AC single-phase heater circuit is wired in 4 square millimeter twin and earth. The design current, IB, is 12.8 amps, and the cable length from the consumer unit to the point of use is 70 meters. Find the MVAM from the table F4.2 in the on-site guide and calculate the expected voltage drop. The relevant data is shown below in the beige box. Putting these numbers into the calculation, we have a voltage drop of 9.86 volts. The actual voltage drop is less than the permitted maximum of 11.5 volts and is acceptable. A question that many learners ask is, if we have a 230 volt AC single-phase 10.5 amp water heater circuit that is wired in 2.5 square millimeter cable protected by a 16 amp circuit breaker, what difference does it make by using the actual maximum current of 10.5 amps instead of the circuit breaker rating of 16 amps? Let's look at this. It's the same circuit, the only difference is which value do we use for IB, the design current. The maximum water heater current is 10.5 amps, and since this is greater than 10 amps, the installer has correctly chosen the next rating above, which is 16 amps. Practice these calculations yourself to improve your technique. Using the breaker rating of 16 amps in the formula will give us a maximum circuit length of 40 meters. Using the breaker rating indicates that if the length exceeds 40 meters, the maximum permitted voltage drop of 11.5 volts will be exceeded. But is it? If it really was 16 amps and we needed a longer length, the cable size would need to be increased, and this will involve more cost. But in our example, the design current is only 10.5 amps, and we cannot exceed that because that is the maximum it is designed to use. So by using the actual maximum design current of 10.5 amps, the maximum circuit length has increased by 50% from 40 meters to 60 meters with the same cross-sectional area. Assuming the 60 meters is sufficient circuit length for the installation, there is now no need to increase the original cable size, keeping cost under control. And lastly, a voltage drop example for a ring final circuit. A 230 volt AC single phase ring final circuit is protected by a 32 amp circuit breaker. It is 70 meters in length and wired in 2.5 square millimeter twin and earth cable. Using table F4.2 in the on-site guide to find MVAM and calculate the expected voltage drop. This time we should use the circuit breaker rating of 32 amps since we have no control of what or how many appliances are plugged in and what the maximum current demand will be. The same top row of the calculation as before, but now the bottom row is divided by 4000 for the ring circuit. The actual voltage drop at a full load of 32 amps for this ring circuit is 10.08 volts and is an acceptable voltage drop. I hope you found this video useful and that it's helped in your appreciation of R1 and R2 in ring and radial circuits. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our channel to get access to all of our videos, and remember to click on notify to be sure of not missing our next video. And don't forget that you can also type in Learn Electrics into the YouTube search bar to go directly to our channel at any time from any computer or smart device. We are always adding new videos to our channel, so don't miss the next one. And once again, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again very soon.